Thank you for your patience. The commission meeting will be commencing in about 5 minutes or so.
All, all, all right, so let's go ahead and call to order the April 17th meeting of the Vallejo Architectural Heritage and Landmarks Commission meeting. Apologize for the late start. We just had a few ministerial things we need to take care of to make sure we were ready to meet this evening. Let's go ahead and have the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, will the secretary please call roll?
Chair McDonald,
Present.
Vice Chair Hall,
Present.
Commissioner Adams,
Here.
Commissioner Riley. Absent is Commissioners Quizmorio, Sosa, and Chacon. We have a quorum tonight.
All right, so our next item is approval of the agenda. Would anyone like to move to approve tonight's agenda?
I'll move to approve.
Commissioner Hall moves. Second, Commissioner Riley. We'll go ahead and vote. All right, so
Okay, we have 4 ayes. Motion passes.
Thank you. Now, motion to approve the minutes. Given the confusion over the packet, were the minutes included in the agenda? So I think because of the confusion, the link, I think we can either, are they here and we can review them, or do we want to postpone? Okay, so can I have a motion that we postpone the adoption of the last meeting's minutes?
I motion.
Okay, Vice Chair Hall moves, seconded by Commissioner Riley.
Okay, it looks like we have 4 ayes. Motion passes.
All right, so we will review those meeting minutes at our next meeting. Report of the City Council Liaison. Peter, do you have anything you want to share? All righty, well, thank you for being here. Community Forum, do we have anybody wishing to speak as part of the Community Forum?
Thank you, Chair. Currently do not have any members of the public who have signed up for this item. However, I did start a 2-minute timer for interested parties to sign up for the community forum. In the meantime, feel free to carry on with the agenda, and at the conclusion of that timer, if anyone signs up, I'll be sure to let you know.
Okay. All right, then I'll go ahead and open the public hearing. This is regarding a resolution approving a certificate of appropriateness, COA 23007, and development review for a new single-family residence at 247 Ohio Street. This would include finding the project exempt from CEQA for new construction or conversion of small structures. We'll go ahead and have the staff report, which I think Laura will be delivering virtually this evening.
Good evening, Commissioners. Hello, I'm Laura Solomon, Associate Planner with the City of Vallejo, and tonight I will be presenting the proposed single-family dwelling at 247 Ohio Street, which was continued at the previous hearing. So the purpose of tonight's meeting is to hold the public hearing and review the continued project. And then AHLC will take action on the certificate of appropriateness and development review. I'd like to remind everyone that this item is subject to the Levine Act, and city elected and appointed officials, including candidates for city elected office who have received a campaign contribution of more than $250 within 12 months prior from a party participant or their representatives involved in this proceeding, may do either of the following. 1, disclose the contribution on the record and recuse themselves from this proceeding, or 2, return the portion of the contribution that exceeds $250 within 30 days from the time the elected official knew or should have known about the contribution and participate in the proceeding. The project site is located on the corner of Ohio Street and Bransford Street and is surrounded by existing residential uses. Next slide. The project is also located within the St. Vincent Historic District. And this subject site is currently a vacant 2,795 square foot lot. The Sanborn maps show that as of 1959, there was a one-story dwelling and a one-story store on the site. And as also a reminder, the project consists of a new 1,764 square foot, two-story single-family residence. Prior to tonight's hearing, while touring the surrounding neighborhood, I gathered photos of similar scale and height residences, and which demonstrate that the proposed structure will be of appropriate massing within the existing streetscape. The applicant also provided a rendering showing the future perspective as the residence is to be built in relation to the adjacent home at 237 Ohio Street. So as shown in the rendered street view, the proposed structure would be within the scale and massing of the existing streetscape. The following are photos of similar scale residences located within the vicinity of this project. So here we have the existing residence to the west at 237 Ohio Street. Next slide. We have existing residences across the street to the northwest at 220 to 228 Ohio Street. And next, we have a photo of an existing residence directly across the street to the north at 244 Ohio Street. And then across the street to the northeast is 300 and 314 Ohio Street. And last, we'll have the existing duplex across the street to the east at 722 to 724 Bransford Street. For reference, I've included the landscape plan again in this presentation. And again, the historical resources impact assessment looks at consistency with the Department of Interior standards for historic rehabilitation, and also to determine the project is categorically exempt pursuant to California Environmental Quality Act. And then so this project is exempt under section 15303 of the CEQA guidelines, class 3 new construction or conversion of small structures. This project, this hearing was noticed on March 6th and then continued, so not renoticed, and we still only received the one comment prior to the previous hearing, and that has again been included in this packet for tonight. So recommended actions, staff recommends that the Architectural Heritage and Landmarks Commission find the project exempt from environmental review pursuant to CEQA guidelines 15303A on new construction or conversion of small structures, and adopt a resolution to approve certificate of appropriateness COA 23-0007 and development review DVR 23-0041 based on the findings and condition contained in the staff report and resolution. And this concludes my presentation, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Laura. Are there any questions from the commission for staff?
Do we have is the architect or the developer here at all?
We'll do questions for staff first, and then we would do.
I'm just wondering if they're here,
I
because
don't. No, I
otherwise I
don't.
do have a question for staff.
No, I don't believe so.
So Laura, do you know, I'm looking at this drawing, can you tell on these windows on this, for one thing, is the siding, is it stucco or is it wood?
It is going to be stucco on this for the siding is what was proposed.
And that large, is that a window or a garage door on the west side?
The large on the right, that is a one-car garage door.
It's a garage door.
And I believe the architect said last time that that's windows along the top.
Okay. And are these windows, I can't tell from the drawing, are the windows trimmed out, for example, just as the building right next to it is, where they have, the windows are framed by some kind of wood fascia boards, as every house in the neighborhood also is. I can't tell. If these are vinyl windows, sometimes they put them in without any trim, and frankly, it looks cheap, and it's easily fixed by doing trim around the windows. I can't tell by looking at the drawing, and I didn't see any reference.
Near the chair, it does mention that window trim will be painted Cape Gray to match the door trim and gutter. So I believe there is a trim, but I can make a note to just confirm that that it's shown on the plans.
Okay. Yeah, thanks.
Mhm.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Commissioner Adams.
I just want to confirm, I remember they said that the garage door was going to be constructed out of wood. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe that is what the architect said at the last hearing.
Okay, and is the front door also wood?
Let's see. Unfortunately, I don't have the plans right in front of me, so forgive me, I'm looking through.
And looking at through the chair and looking at the plans, it doesn't look like the material is called out on the elevations for the door.
The on the material sample board, it doesn't say whether it's wood or not, but it does have a model shown.
It does look like it's a panel door, and not just a flat slab or something like that.
Mhm. Through the chair, looking at up the model that's listed, the company does make wood doors, but I'm not sure exactly this one for sure.
But stylistically, the things that are represented in the rendering, so the panel door with the lights above the two panels on the door, and the garage door with the lights above the panelized garage door, the things that are represented here, there's an expectation that the final items provided will be as indicated, right?
Correct. But we can always make recommendations based on the comments made here tonight and provide that to the applicant.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that, like, if we approve this door in its the details that are represented here, that like we won't get just a flat panel door through the permit process. We'll get a reasonable facsimile of what's shown here.
Through the chair, I would clarify with, I don't know exactly what to do, but the materials board shows a completely different door than the one on the rendering. It shows a glass panel that's, you know, 2/3. Do you see that, what I'm looking? Let me pass it down.
Which item is the, sorry. Is that in our packet though? That material board?
So since they provided it, I think you could condition it to be one kind of door or the other, because they did show it on the materials board.
Just want to make sure it's not some flat door. Okay. Oops. Did you see it?
Yeah, that's completely different than this. I mean, it's completely different.
It's really
Yeah,
different.
yeah.
It's like a different design.
Yeah. So does
I
it
don't
call
even
for us
see this in the packet.
to
Can you help me find that in the packet? Which page?
I can't, but I'm hoping someone else can. Should be paginated, my packet there.
I'm in the supplemental packet. I'm assuming it's in the supplemental packet? Sorry? The supplemental,
Supplemental is for the presentation slides that we're looking at right now. The actual packet itself is in the agenda packet.
okay.
This was printed from the packet, so it should be, it's after the resolution, after the conditions of approval.
But see, so there's no, hang on. All right, so here's the thing. So the email that we got, there's some confusion about the email that we got because it read as though it was the agenda, and I think there was a group misunderstanding that the other materials would be posted and would be accessible by that link. So folks on the commission were waiting for another email when we just needed to come back to that link later. So the agenda packet is available in the downloads if we want to look at the agenda packet, which contains additional information to Laura's presentation. So we could look through the agenda packet if we want to see it. If we want to look at it, we could all download it now and look at it. But it does have supplemental information like a different door than the door that is in Laura's presentation and different than what is in the supplemental packet. So,
Question. How much is different? Is it just the door? Is there, you know?
well, so it has the agenda, the same as the agenda that we have. So the agenda that's in the packet, so the agenda that is in the packet is marked draft. There was an agenda, there's an agenda in the packet, it's watermarked draft.
Through the chair,
Yes.
I just want to clarify, the version that I'm looking at on the website is not marked draft, so I'm not sure if maybe there's a different download you have. But the one that I'm accessing that's available to the public is shown as with no watermark.
So I'm going to close the packet that I just opened. So I just downloaded the agenda packet. I'm going to go to my downloads. Here's the PDF of the packet I downloaded 1 minute ago. And then
Glad you found something constructive to do. Glad you found something constructive to do at our meeting. What's it?
It's regarding Trump and the issues.
Oh.
Through the chair, just to clarify the differences in the materials presented, there were some additional visuals that were provided to you that were not included in the first report from the last meeting. And in addition to that, some of the findings were slightly revised. I think maybe just one finding related to the massing. And that finding has been updated on the resolution, and a printed copy was given to you at the start of this meeting. So those are really the two key changes, I believe. Laura Solomon can clarify if there's anything additional that should be noted.
I had another question of Laura, if I, and that is, again, on the drawing of, on the semicircle above the door, does that project out? Is it, or is it just is it a flat half circle above the door? Do you know?
it's here. You can see it here. It's a.
Yeah.
It's like a. I'm just showing Commissioner Riley the elevations in the packet.
Can we direct that to Laura or Manny and get the slide up? Because
So,
it should be
Laura,
in the
maybe-
packet.
Laura, could you pull up drawing A3 in the architectural set? It shows an elevation, and then It shows the front elevation, it shows the front elevation and the right elevation, and I think the right elevation explains that there's a two-story protrusion
It does, yeah.
that's open to the front and the sides that creates a porch with an extension of the second story above it.
Thank you, Manny.
I just don't see it projecting. But what you're telling me is that it does project out.
Yeah, or if you see in the left elevation, so like if this is the face of the house, this is protruding out and it's there, so the rest of the house is beyond right here. And this element, this box element right there.
Oh, the whole. Oh,
Two-story
I
piece
see.
right there, that whole piece protrudes out from the rest of the
I see.
elevation.
Thank you.
Right there.
Will you clarify that in the record when you go back to your microphone so that people?
Yeah.
Yep. All right, so apologies. So what I was pointing out to commissioners is that in the left elevation, you can see the porch and an extension of the second floor extending out beyond the rest of the facade. And you can see that reflected in also the front elevation as roughly the left-hand quarter of the front elevation is proud of the other 3/4 of the front elevation. And you could see that extension of both the first floor covered entry and the second floor extending out on the right elevation.
Then I had another question. The exterior light example given on the right-hand side, and then in each of on the drawings, it shows where these exterior lights are. Is that being used all the way around for all exterior lighting? I'm guessing the answer is yes, because it says, it shows that as the exterior light fixture.
Through the
Through
chair,
the
yes.
chair, yes, they would all match. Mhm.
I was saying that the lighting would be consistent all the way around the building.
Okay. And I just wanted to commend the architect for that, because that's good neighbor lighting. It's lighting downcast. It doesn't shine out sideways. I wish more people would put it in their houses, including some of my neighbors.
So, Laura, I do also have a question now that we're going through the package. I do also have a question about the communication that's on the last page of the package. One is a note about the lack of ground floor plans or proposed occupancy. So I believe at this point we do have ground plan, an overall site plan as a ground plan. And I think there are drawings in the architectural set that show the interior rooms, like indicate what each of the use of each of the rooms is. So I think that addresses the concern about the lack of floor plans. Just to clarify, it is intended as a single-family residence, correct? There's also a mention here about sufficient parking spaces. And I believe, I don't know that with off-street parking, do homeowners have an obligation to ensure on-street parking availability?
Through the chair, our zoning code requires one covered off-street parking for a single-family residence.
Okay, and does the zoning require any, I mean, is existing street parking, I don't know how you control that. If your neighbor has 8 cars, I don't know how you can control that, how many spaces there are for your site. Okay.
Through the chair, yeah, it's public street parking. You can't control that. Someone can park there for 72 hours.
Okay.
And yeah.
And then I had also asked a question about the removal of the existing trees that were there, and there's also a note here that there had been indication to the neighbors that the heritage trees would be maintained, and yet they were cut down. Has the city looked at all into the removal of the trees, which it seemed, based on our conversation at the last meeting, at least one of them was large enough to require a permit or a tree removal process? Has that been looked into?
Through the chair, I just know that there was not a permit pulled for that. But that would have been done through Public Works if there was one. So unfortunately, I don't see one in our records.
So, I mean, I don't know if there's anything to be done retroactively about that, but it does seem from the information provided in the last meeting that there were at least one tree, if not more, on the site that would have required a permit for removal.
Through the chair, it's hard to know because we don't have any evidence other than the complaint from the neighbor. Correct? I mean, I don't know that we know. I wouldn't know what to do, I don't know what to do at this point, unless we had photographs prior to removal.
Well, I can personally attest to that. There was a nice large redwood tree on that location, and it looked like a park, but the neighbors can attest to that. They live right next door to it. But I personally know that neighborhood and saw that. And when I went to look at the property, was surprised to see it cleared off completely, everything removed.
I recall it too.
Through the chair, if we could able to document what the size of the tree was originally and verify that, then theoretically we could have code enforcement open up a violation case regarding the removal without the proper permits.
Okay. Could we go ahead and ask that code enforcement visit the site to try and observe any tree remains that are at the site? Like if there's, I mean, we can't enter the site, but can we request that code enforcement go to see if there's any evidence, i.e. a stump or anything like that, that a tree of a size that would have triggered a tree removal permit was possibly removed?
Through the chair, yes, we could have code enforcement schedule a time to go out there and take a look.
Okay. And I ask that that be done quickly now that it's a matter of the public record that we've asked for that. Okay. Yeah, or I suppose if anyone else is able to provide photographic documentation of trees that were previously at the site, who would said person's contact? Okay, Robbie, do you mind sharing your contact information for anybody who might be listening that can share information?
Yeah, I can provide my contact information.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And for the record, we have the neighbors in the audience raising their hands
I know.
and indicating that
They'll get their
that
minute.
they have that information.
They'll get their second here.
For your information.
All right. Do we have any other questions for staff? Okay, and I believe the applicant is not here this evening to present. Is there anyone online representing the applicant?
Not at this time, Chair, but we do have a member of the audience who would like to speak on this item.
All right, we'll invite our member of the audience forward. You can both speak too.
Oscar Barajas, please come to the front.
Good evening to the commission. I am Oscar Barajas. I reside at 719 Branciforte, right behind the house that is proposed. I need to begin with going back to last year, around this time, April 14th. 2024, 7 a.m. on a Sunday, we were woken up by the sound of chainsaws, 7 a.m. on a Sunday, and equipment being moved. And it was a group of about 3 or 4 guys, and they began to chop down the trees. 1 redwood and 2 sequoias, approximately 40 feet in height. And so that was a surprise. So we did take some video. We do have pictures of the trees before and after. We do have pictures of the stumps. But no notice was given to us that this was going to be occurring at 7 a.m. on a Sunday. They had a few safety cones, but not enough not enough for an OSHA person to agree that it was safe. A few safety cones, that was it. I had to move my truck so it wouldn't be so no branches would fall on it. And so we do have pictures of before and after on our phones. If you would like them, we can email them to you or make copies. And so I just really don't think the commission should approve this property until they find out if he pulled the permit to chop down these trees. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But if he was in arrears of the law, which California law does state, you need a permit to chop down a redwood tree, even if it's on private property. So please, it would behoove the commission to find out if he's following the law or just doing whatever he wants. And also our fence was broken due to one of the branches, and that still hasn't been fixed. The fence is old, a little bit dilapidated, but that's besides the point. The fence was never fixed. It's been a year. And he had landscapers come out and chop down the weeds. They left a big mess on the sidewalk, grass out and weeds all over the sidewalk. They never swept it up. And so please, if the commission can look into this gentleman's history of obeying, the permits and going through the proper channels. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Carrie Swing. I also live next door at 719 Bransford. And I just wanted to say you can see the trees today if you look at Google Earth. If you go to 247 Ohio, you can see the trees. I didn't go into the site to measure the stumps, but they are there. And I would say that the redwood looks like it could be 30 to 40 inches in diameter. The 2 sequoias, maybe a little bit smaller than that. I don't know how tall they were, but you can look right now on Google Earth. It's still there, visible. Anyway, yeah, that was a bummer. The neighbors were very disappointed. We just don't want that to be indicative of how this applicant maintains with the neighbors. We're just not hoping for that kind of a relationship. So going forward, we'd like improvements. Thanks.
No other speakers at this time, Chair.
All right. I'll go ahead and close the public portion of tonight's presentation, and then next we would have an opportunity to deliberate amongst commissioners. Any commissioners who'd like to comment or discuss? Commissioner Adams.
Yeah, I'm really concerned about 2 things: the violation, and also about the fence that is still in need of repair. And I'm wondering if we could postpone approval until both of those situations are investigated. Is that possible?
I'm not sure do we have any, to staff, do we have any jurisdiction over the affairs regarding the damaged fence?
No, I'm sorry. That's
But-
a private matter between
Okay.
the parties.
But,
There are private remedies, civil remedies that they
Yeah.
can.
but
themselves of.
because the development permit is part of what we're reviewing and the site plan, does the removal of the mature trees, is that reason to give a sufficient reason to give us cause regarding the development plan portion of what we're reviewing this evening? I do see a fairly substantial tree right here at the corner. You could see it also in the view, a fairly large trunk.
Through the chair, the remedy for the tree removal, we can handle separately through, separate from the project and through a code enforcement case. So it doesn't have to be tied to the development review.
I
Since
guess
that was
the-
done previously.
I guess the only reason I ask is because the development plan that would also be reviewing this evening contains no plantings comparable to what may have been inappropriately removed.
Through the chair, through the code enforcement process, if it is discovered that the tree was removed without the proper permits, the remedy for that would be to provide the additional replacement trees as required by the zoning code. So that entire issue of replacing the trees could be handled on a separate path, basically. And frankly, that's probably a better path to handle it.
Okay. And that would be incorporated into, if a development plan was approved this evening, that would be incorporated into, but there would be oversight of the integration of the additional trees into any development plan approved this evening. They wouldn't just be randomly plunked into.
You could add that to the conditions of approval under landscaping, like if replacement trees are required, that they are installed pursuant to blah, 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 code section at the director's discretion for placement, so they don't have to come back to you to something like that.
Okay, and then there's also the matter of the discrepancies in the doors between the paneled door with the lights above the two panels versus the more decorative glass and wood door that's presented in the materials plan. Is there any concern about the discrepancy amongst the doors?
No, the glass door is the one that they're going ahead with, as I understand it. And if that's the case, it's an attractive door, looks good, and it's not a slab of wood or whatever. So they are going ahead with it. What we see is that drawing of a glass door. That is the plan.
The photo of the door, there's a photo of the door, there's a picture of a door on the materials plan that is more decorative glass, and then there's a picture of a panelized door with glass on the elevation. Are both acceptable if we end up, that would be the question, is as it's presented, we could get either door.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay with either.
Through the chair, Laura, do you know if the applicant's intent for which door is actually the one they want to move forward with? The glass one or the wood?
Through the chair, I'm not positive, but I would think the material board would stand more since the applicant brought that in directly, rather than the architect's digital plans. But I can confirm with them, or we can make a note.
They have to
that-
make a decision tonight, so I think you
Okay.
can rely on the materials board and make that clear when you approve, if you approve the project.
But to me, an architect's drawing set supersedes a material board. A material board is something somebody patched together and brought in, and it was not the architect that brought it in, versus the plans that are going to come in for permit is the architectural set.
But you can condition it to be as shown in the materials board since they provided it, rather than delay the hearing if you.
Okay. I mean, I personally don't care for the door on the materials plan because I think it's inconsistent with the garage doors.
That's
I mean,
perfectly fine.
stylistically, sorry, that's why we're deliberating, but I mean, stylistically, the front door on the elevation is somewhat stylistically consistent with the panelized garage door, whereas the oddly morphed picture of a door on the materials board seems inconsistent with the style of the garage door. Just for discussion.
Through the chair, one suggestion, if you want to have a different door design, you could just add a condition that requires a door designed to match the garage and leave the discretion up to the director to make the final call if you're comfortable with that, because I know that they do have styles that are more like craftsman style or.
I don't know that we, I mean, you see this
Okay.
in houses all over the place.
Okay.
The garage doors, the front doors become, it's not
Sure.
a craftsman house, it's, but let me ask you this, short of giving the builder and the owner a lecture on being a good neighbor, can we say that in the course of construction, which would include the removal of trees, that they are responsible for damage caused to their neighbors? Isn't that just sort of a condition of any project that's being done, that whatever they do in the course of doing their work, that they're responsible for problems they may create for a neighbor, like damaging a fence, which is what happened here.
I think that's could be done and true, but I don't think we can retroactively say that. But for any damage during construction, I mean, I think that's. Do you agree, Kristen? I mean, I think if they damage, there's no evidence. We can't be the judge in whether or not these contractors who went out and removed the tree damaged the fence. I take your word for it that it happened, but we shouldn't. It is, no, oh yeah, it is a civil matter between the neighbors. So the neighbors have a cause of action against this owner if they want to go after them for fence repair. But I think, it's a shared fence probably anyway, so they have to, if they're going to repair it, except for the damage, which would be the one that caused it. But if he said it was rickety anyway, if they're just saying they need to work it out, maybe the property owner that damaged the fence does pay for that portion of the fence that's repaired, and but that's up to them. It's not up to it shouldn't be.
We can add as a comment, if the other commissioners agree that that they should be responsible for whatever they cause harm. I mean, it's easy enough.
Well, you
for
are
us,
under
we
the
can
law
say
anyway, so it doesn't. You don't. I mean, they are under the law anyway. So if the property owner or the contractor causes damage, there's remedies.
I mean, we can't put it in as a.
No, we have no way of policing that.
But we have in previous instructions that we get, we've been told that we can encourage certain things. We cannot mandate, but we can say, for example.
You can, but the applicant's not here. So the only place to put it would be in the condition of approval, and it's not really an encouragement. I mean, I suppose you could, if that's the, I suppose you could. I don't know what effect it would have, but.
The fact that the applicant isn't here is his tough luck as far as I'm concerned, frankly. We have a lot of questions that we're relying on staff to answer, and it would all be much clearer if the applicant was present.
And one more question. Are the windows, there's not much detail on the window regarding like the profiles of the window casings. Are they wood windows?
No,
They appear vinyl.
I thought I saw vinyl. Did I?
And how wide is the fascia, too? Surrounding trim.
There are vinyl windows in the staff report.
Okay.
project description.
And can staff remind me, I know you couldn't put a vinyl window in as a replacement for a wood window. Is a vinyl window acceptable in new construction?
Through the chair, yes, final windows with new construction is acceptable.
And in previous dealings before this board, the comment I made on the fascia boards that finish a window off, I remember a discussion several years ago where the use of a vinyl window, but with proper trim around it, just looked good and not cheap, as these otherwise would look if they had nothing but this thin vinyl frame. It's minimal expenditure for a builder.
So is the trim there's a surround around the windows shown on the elevations with a keystone detail. Is that a stucco or a wood detail around the vinyl windows?
Through the chair, it looks to be a wood trim around, and then painted gray.
Is that called out on the elevations anywhere? I see some of the paint finishes on sheet A3.
Are there any measurements involved? It just seems really narrow, and as compared to the other houses, it's very inconsistent, the way it looks, compared to the other historical homes. The trim is just really narrow around those vinyl windows, and I think it really takes away from it.
Do not see a dimension on that trim on the elevations.
Yeah, and I also don't, I mean, I don't see an indication that it's a wood trim either. It looks similar to the stucco details on sometimes around windows on stucco houses, but I also don't see any indication that or the keystone is wood versus stucco. But I guess what I'm hearing, though, is that we don't have the option to do another continuation. Do we?
Yeah, you do.
Oh, okay, sorry. I just heard the comment that we need to vote this evening, but we could, I suppose, vote to continue, that we need additional information regarding the window trim, regarding the door selection between the two conflicting doors that are presented. I think it's vinyl windows and it's vinyl windows.
The garage door, you wanted confirmation that it was going to be changed without
Okay.
windows.
Oh, I thought last time we said they were windows and that windows were preferred.
Oh, okay, sorry. My mistake.
That's okay. All right, so do you feel we want to go ahead and end deliberation and somebody is ready to make a motion?
I move to continue so that we can find out about whether the trim is going to be wood, and also the dimensions of it? How wide is the trim going to be? And was there anything else that we were going to?
The determination of which door is going to be provided, the one
Right.
we talked about, the door
Yes.
in the elevation versus the door in the material plan.
Through the chair, just want to make sure that if you're going to continue, that you continue to date certain, or the next meeting, for example, should be May 15th.
Yeah. Move
Okay.
it into the next meeting on May 15th.
And anything else anybody wants clarified?
Could we ask that a representative of the owner, either the architect or the owner itself, be at least present on electronically, if not physically?
Through the chair, we can try to make sure that the applicant or the owner is there to attend the next meeting.
Okay, so just to restate the motion, so the motion is that we continue this item until our next scheduled meeting on May 15th. The additional items that we'd like information on is verification of the window trim materials and dimensions, and also verification of the proposed front door, as there's a currently conflicting representations between the elevations and the materials board. Okay, so, then, all right. Okay, so so I'll restate that the motion made by Commissioner Adams is that we'll continue this item until our next scheduled meeting on May 15th with the following requests: that the materiality and the actual dimensions of the window trims be presented.
Not just presented, but to be similar to the
And that they be similar to adjacent structures. And wait a minute, I just want to point out that this is an adjacent structure.
that's not any the other stuff. Because
Okay.
that is in all the others, even the Victorians across the street.
You could make a motion that says that they provide confirmation of all the things you're going to list, or that the applicant be here, and then, if they can't be here and they don't want to provide, if they don't like the idea of a certain size of window trim, for example, and they want to talk to you about it, then maybe they could show up, like they could do one or the other. And then they can, at least if they're here, you can have a discussion about that, and they can explain why or why not. I'm just thinking they might not be able to make it next time either. And then if they tell Laura, no, we don't want white or window trim for some reason, I'm just trying to think on our feet, so in case we don't box ourselves into a...
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to word this in a motion.
Just provide more detail or definitive detail as to whether, this, and this, and request the applicant's presence at the next hearing. And if they can't, does that make sense? And if they can't be at the next hearing, to provide,
Through staff? I don't know.
I think you can decide at the next hearing what to do if they don't show up. I want to offer one other alternative, though, too. If your issues are very focused on these two items, and if there's consensus and you know what you would like to see, you could potentially approve with conditions that it meet X, Y, and Z.
Right.
So.
That we would approve it on the condition that the trim around the windows would be similar to the trim.
Can you speak into the microphone so everyone can hear you? Sorry.
Yeah, I would like to move that the trim around the windows be similar to the one next door in width and in materials, so that it would be more consistent with the neighborhood. even across the street with the other structures, the trim is much wider. So on those conditions, it would be approved. And also, we would like to find out more about the front door. And I think that,
Well, yeah, I think what the suggestion was if we choose one or the other and we say it's approved on the condition of it being this door and not the other.
okay,
Or if it's approved with the condition that the trims be wood and be similar in scale to the house, to the blue house to the right, then we could approve with those recommendations.
right.
But I think, I'm not sure we're specific as to which door, because I sense that some folks are okay with both doors, in which case, as long as it's one of the two doors presented, we maybe then don't have to impose any condition about the door,
Okay.
but we just say, if we're inclined to approve it, it's approved.
Just the window trim then.
Though, I mean, I guess if it was a stucco trim and it was of a similar scale, do you feel strongly, given that it's a stucco house adjacent to wood houses, that it needs to be a yeah. Like, I don't know, like, given the keystone design, if it's stucco and if it's wide enough to match the others in scale, is a stucco surround around the windows sufficient as long as the scale is consistent?
Yes.
Or do we feel it needs to be wood?
No, it doesn't need to be wood. If the scale's consistent, then it would be sufficient, I think. What do you think?
What else would it be made of? Are you saying?
Stucco, it could be stucco.
I have a feeling what's drawn is a stucco surround. Given the keystone at the top, that seems odd for a wood surround.
Through the chair, I have a little bit of experience in this. I used to work for a home builder, and these trims oftentimes are made of like a foam material that's covered in a stucco. So that's very likely what this design is.
Okay.
But it would be, say 3 or 4 inches wide, even if it's formed, it would have the appearance of these others.
Yes.
It would have the scale, but it doesn't have, having had a stucco house before, a historic house, those stucco surrounds that then get, blown over with the stucco, they don't in any way look like the frames on a historic house.
But the ones I've seen, they can square them off. They can make them smooth. It's not just blown foam or like a rough stucco. They can easily make them smooth and shaped. Yeah.
Okay.
And that would be an easy thing to put in here, that whatever materials they use, they have the appearance of the kind of style of the other windows. Literally every house here, possibly even the stucco house across the street from it,
Right.
has what appear to be wood frames, but they could accomplish the same thing with stucco.
But it would have to be the same width.
Okay, so do we have a revised motion?
Yes.
Okay,
We just make a motion that the window trim would be the same width as the one next door. And all the windows would have the same.
well, I think
Width.
the reason we don't want to say all surrounding is these are.
Because right now, it looks like maybe 3 inches, and then next door is 6 inches.
Yeah.
Do you mean to scale with the next door or the exact width
I
of
think
the
it's-
frames?
I think
the
you're.
next
I think
door?
I think we're saying of comparable proportion to the ones next door. Not go next door and measure, and it's 4 3/8, and they have to be 4 3/8, but comparable
Yeah,
scale.
comparable,
Okay.
yeah.
So we have a motion to approve with the amendment that the window surrounds are of comparable proportion and scale to the immediately adjacent house.
actually to most houses in the neighborhood.
Okay.
Because they all have similar types of trim. A little more
Okay.
decorative on the older houses, but the same concept.
Anyone want a second? We have a motion from Commissioner Adams,
Yeah, I'll second it.
a second by Commissioner Riley. And we'll go ahead and vote.
Okay, looks like we have 3 ayes and 1 no vote. Motion passes.
All right. Just on our agenda, we'll come back to under public comment. There was no public comment. We opened the floor for 2 minutes. Was there anyone else wishing to speak? Do we have any written communications this evening?
No new written communications were received.
Okay. Anybody wishing to make a report?
Just a comment. I wanted to thank the staff for these street views. I think that's really helps us a great deal in visualizing what's going on in these different neighborhoods. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Laura, I'll echo that. Thank you. Whoever spearheaded that and went out and did some footwork and got the additional rendering, it was very informative and very helpful. All right, with that, I'll go ahead and adjourn tonight's meeting of the Vallejo Architectural Heritage and Landmarks Commission, and thank you everybody for sticking with us with the late start.